Welcome to Disney World in Minecraft. In today's video we're going to be creating the partner statue which sits in the centre of the hub of the Magic Kingdom Park. We're starting out here by just outlining the shape using the amazing MC Parks outlining tool, and we very quickly moved on to using LittleTiles to kind of build the basic structure. If this feels a bit fast here, it's because it's going at about 8,000% speed, as it took like 16 hours to complete. Here you can see I kind of made a mistake and had to start again because I used the wrong colour brick. And we only went for sandstone, which looks a bit better. Here we're trying to fill the middle in just to make it look a bit better. I went for grass initially, but you can see that I changed my mind later. And here we go again, just kind of emptying it a little bit just to make it a bit cleaner. And at this stage I'm just filling it all in just so we have a nice clean surface to work from for the rest of the building. And here I just went into kind of outside view just so I could see what it looked like to make sure it looked about the right size, and I think it did. At this point I'm just creating a little step that goes, the seat which sits on top of the plinth. It looks a little bit weird, but I think it gets the right impression. I'm just extending all the little blocks outwards a little bit. So now I'm on to just blocking out the basic shape of the base from where the statue lands on. It's not quite right, it's a bit high at this point, but we'll sort that out in a minute. You can see it looks a bit like a first aid cross at the moment, which is a bit too wide, but we'll get there, we'll sort it. At this point I know it looks too wrong, it's too square, so I kind of used the little tile tool just to knock the part there. I used the little tile tool just to knock the tiles back a bit, just to make them look a bit more rectangular rather than square. At this point I move on to the actual statue itself. I used, I think it's grey wool I used, maybe black wool, I think it's grey wool. Just to kind of mark out where the statue is going to go. And I made a little sign just to denote the front of the statue. This is my first attempt at the statue. I wasn't that impressed, and I kind of switched between two different things. So I went from the statue here, and in a minute you'll see I switched to experimenting with the fence. Here's where I abandoned that idea for now and just switched to looking at ideas of how I can build the fence up. And here I'm exploring more of the little tile structures tool, which is super useful. That's something I'll be exploring more in the future. At this point I move on to my second attempt at building the statue. I've used a tool here called Pixlr and basically grabbed a basic Walt Disney skin and just turned it grayscale so that I can see the outline of what the statue is meant to look like. And I see in a minute I compare it to what the actual statue looks like to try and get the position kind of right. And here's where I kind of start blocking in Mickey, just so I can kind of get an idea of where the hands need to meet. And here's where I start Mickey. I did start using gold, but I changed that later because I thought it was a bit too bright. But I'm really pleased how Mickey turned out. It's very, very simple, but I think you can kind of tell, if you know the statue, you can kind of tell what it's meant to be. So I'm really happy with Mickey, really happy. I'm trying to get his hand position right here. I'm still not quite happy with it, but it's because I think it's the nearest I'm going to get. So I moved on to undoing all the work I did earlier with the glass blocks and changing it for dirt blocks, because I thought grass doesn't look quite right, because obviously the flowers are not actually in grass, they're actually in dirt, so I thought I'd better replace that. And here's where I started to think about flowers themselves, because I looked at the default flowers and they don't quite work with LittleTile, not properly, because the levels are slightly all wrong, so I had to make my own. This is the first go at it, just trying to experiment with shapes, seeing what would kind of work. I found a shape that I liked and I discovered you could actually dye those little tiles. I made a little flower and I made a blueprint of those which I could just sprinkle all over the place. You'll notice in a minute that some of them are kind of higher and stacked to each other. I decided to leave it like that because I think that adds a bit more texture, and if you look at the real thing there are some flowers that are kind of above and below, so I thought I'd leave them there. At this point I'm working on the fence. I started out using gold, but I changed that later. This fence took so long to do. All I'm doing at this point is cutting out the blocks to kind of make the fence look a bit more, you know, fancy. At this point we're taking the grid down to the LittleTile grid. I think we're taking down to like 64. I have mine set up, just so you know, I have my LittleTile grid set up so it goes up to 10 levels, which means it can go up to 512th of a block. I haven't yet used that highest level, I don't think I ever will, but for this fence I took out, I think the smallest bit I took out was 128th of a grid. Of a block. You may have noticed I've actually put some lights in here as well, and let's sped through it at some point, but they're actually positioned in the bottom corners of the plinth of the statue. I think they might be too bright, but if you look at it light, it kind of lights up the whole area. It's probably a bit too much, and it doesn't really spotlight on the statue itself, which is a shame. But other than that, it does the job. I had to mend the wall here. I managed to delete some of the sections a couple of times in this build. I mean, I do love the gold, but when I looked at the photos, it's actually not accurate to what the fence is. I thought it was initially because I saw the picture. I think it must have a lot of sun shining on it at the time, but it's not actually gold. It's much more browny in colour. Doing these fence panels was so finicky. Getting to look right in all the areas, especially on an angle, it still doesn't look quite right on an angle at the moment, but yeah, I made them too thick here initially, so I had to take them out again. Here I'm just taking out the top part of the fence to make way for the top bit. I tried a couple of ideas for what to do decoration-wise on the top of the fence, but as it's a curve, it's really difficult to find anything that works reliably and looks correct all the way around. So in the end, what I ended up doing was, you'll see it in a minute, I just used simple blocks to block out in sections. Yes, because there was so much rain. It kept raining constantly. So any tips how to turn the rain off? Do let me know. Here I am experimenting with different patterns at the top. I tried circles, I tried lines, I tried doing a curve, but the curve there wasn't enough space to do a curve. So in the end you'll see I set off just a continuation of the bars that I used in the bottom section. It would look so cool to use those circles and would have been closer, but as it curves around it would look so weird on the angles. And the actual pattern itself and the rail fence is so intricate. So here's what I went with in the end. And just there you saw the fence being changed to brown, and here is the final model. I'm really happy with it. It's not perfect, there are bits that don't look quite right. It should be roughly to scale, but I'm really happy with it. I hope you like it too. If any ideas of what you want me to do next, then please leave them in the comments. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.